Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to our Narrow Road podcast. I am the host, Amanda Williams, and I am here with our co-host, Avery Williams, and we are so delighted to have you here with us tonight.
Hello, everybody, and good evening.
So what have you been busy doing lately?
Nothing much. Wrestling, sleeping, and then dying in our strength and conditioning workouts.
And you've been taking an interim class?
Yes, ethics.
Ethics. How are you liking that so far?
I like it a lot. It is a lot of fun.
Good. And you're keeping up with everything okay? It's moving pretty quick?
Yep, for the most part. It was the holiday season, and then I looked over, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have my midterm in a week. I probably should study for that. Maybe, possibly.
Well, we are super impressed with your hard work. Super impressed. I think it's okay to send a little shout out to you for making the president's list at college. That's quite an accomplishment with all of your high school work, college work, wrestling, all the things. So
because
congrats.
I had such an amazing preparatory teacher. I mean,
yes, I'm sure it is.
we're basically an Ivy League prep school.
Oh, goodness. I take credit for nothing. Anyway, yeah, congrats. So we are sitting here in a blizzard, and it's quite beautiful, actually. The crystals on the window and the wind outside. We've got the fireplace going, and it's just, yeah, really, really nice to have this time together to do this. So, okay, well, we've also just completed a celebratory
The second to
birthday.
last
Yes.
celebration of this holiday season.
Yes, we've had a 13th birthday. Oh my, more teenagers in the house.
Hey,
It
you
was a
went
good day.
from 2 to 1, and now you're back at 2. It's the same number of teenagers.
That's right. Yes, they just keep getting older and older, and that means, I'm getting older as well. But, so tonight, we are going to be talking about, or today, whenever you're listening to this, we're going to be talking about a peaceful home. So we had put out a poll and some questions on social media, had some really great questions come in. One of them was, I saw your kids running through the woods in your promotional video. And if we want a peaceful home, where do we start? And I tell you, you would think this is an easy question. I thought it would be such an easy question. And so I started thinking and praying about it. How would I answer this with humility and carefully? Because like I said last time, I don't believe there's a formula, just different principles we follow. And I think there was a lot of spiritual warfare around this one. Lack of peace when preparing for how to talk about peace. And so Avery and I, we had a really long discussion before we started recording, and I think we've come to some maybe helpful bits of information. Would you agree?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So your suggestion was that we do what first? Define.
Oh, yes. Shout out to all my Challenge 1 students out there. We must define our terms.
Define our terms, yes. So what did you define peaceful home as?
Like it is a home that works with you.
Yeah.
You're not fighting your, dresser to try to find your clothes.
Mm-hmm.
You have things where you need them conveniently. If you need to go get your backpack, you don't have to hike through a million miles of, tubs of Christmas clothing.
Sure. Christmas clothing.
I
or
know.
Christmas decorations.
My brain is running low.
We're a little tired, but we're at peace, aren't we? Yes, I really liked your definition because I thought that's so true. Because I am so hardcore that there is no formula. But I think that's true for every single person who's setting up a home. You need to work with the grain, not against the grain, whatever works for you. So if there's something that's not working for you, then you need to change it. So that is very good. You also said something to me earlier in the day, I think, that it was an expectation. And what was the other thing?
It was a culture and atmosphere, something instilled.
Yes, a culture and atmosphere. So basically what we're saying is it's an intentional, there's intentionality behind it, there's thought, there's planning, family culture, purposeful design. And so I just thought back to when did I first experience peace in motherhood or homemaking or whatever you want to call our journey. And so I know there are many of you listening who maybe have a different lifestyle and in a different stage. But for myself, it was when my kids were really little. And I don't know exactly what all was going on, except for the fact that we were trying to get Aiden from his crib to his toddler bed, and amongst other things. But I remember feeling really sleep deprived, really worn down. And a gal from our church had stopped by to drop off some papers for my husband. And I think she could tell in her wisdom. And she asked how I was doing, and I just kind of shared, my first world problems, of course. And I said, I just don't know what to do. Do you have any advice? And she said, live a quiet life, mind your business, and work heartily with your hands. And I remember thinking, does she not think I live a quiet life? Am I too loud? Am I not minding my business? Does she think I'm gossiping? Does she not think I'm good at working with my hands? But then it kind of clicked upon pondering it, that she was giving me the permission I desperately needed. And that was to stay home, to live a quiet life, to do the work that I knew I was called to do, and just to mind my business, not be looking around me at what everybody else was doing. And that kind of brought me into another thought process, because when my kids were little, I was kind of caught up in the hubbub, getting the park dates and the play dates and the friend dates and the coffee dates and all the dates.
Because, children must be socialized.
Yes.
At all costs.
At all costs, at every moment. And not that I didn't enjoy those things. I really did. But I noticed that I was really different than the other moms. I felt like they could run circles around me. I didn't know how they could be out and about at all these planned events with their kiddos, library reading time. I could go on, but there was just so many opportunities to get involved in. And how did they get their laundry done and keep their houses cleaned and get a nice warm meal on the table for their husband? I knew I had to be home more in order to do those things. And I wasn't one of those moms, and I'm sorry in advance, Avery, but I wasn't one of those moms that was like down on the floor playing house with you or playing dolls or outside climbing trees with you. I was the mom that was bringing you alongside what I was doing. Can you think of things like that we've talked about before?
Well, I also feel like that rolls back to like the whole thing that we were talking about before, which was you wanted to be able, if you were going to do something, you were going to be the best at it.
Well.
And so you wanted to be able to always grow and strive. But I remember a lot of the things that we did together was like laundry or dishes, or like by the time Aiden and I were like 4 and 6, we were able to basically clean the entire house with minimal parental oversight, just because we knew what to do. But I also remember we also did non-chore related things like baking and cooking. Yeah. Insert the photo of me on Instagram making French toast at, what is it, like 3?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think I just always thought, a life of discipleship would be so lovely. And so I just thought, well, how else do I disciple my kids if I don't spend time with them? And yes, we did play. We read a lot of books, but the majority of our time spent together was being proactive and being efficient and getting tasks done, but we did them together. And I think that developed a friendship and, a conversational atmosphere, and you knew how to sort laundry when you were 3. And so that was just something that brought a lot of peace to our home. I was still able to be with you. We were able to garden, pulled weeds together, whatever. And I taught you guys to love learning, I guess.
I also think it really helped, like, now that Ada and I are older, because it really fostered independence in Ada and I. Like, we knew that necessarily if we got stuck, we could definitely come to you. But it taught us problem solving. How are we going to... Something's on a very high shelf. How are we going to, work through it? Well, get a chair.
Much to my frustration. You were always caught climbing things. Yeah, and I'll say that's so true. As we've then adopted kiddos that have come to us a lot later in life, that was something that was lacking, problem solving, knowing how to do simple tasks. And that is not their fault at all. But I recognize, I need to start waking up parts of my brain in that regard, to go back and to do those things with them. And I found that even in, the last year, just setting them off to do a chore doesn't fare as well as me doing it with them or having a buddy system of some sort, some type of mentor. So the verse that I was referencing is 1 Thessalonians 4:11. And the NIV says, make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. You should mind your own business and work with your hands, just as we told you, so that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders and so that you will not be dependent on anybody. And I just want to preface the context of this scripture is not to a mother working in her home, but to the people of Acts who thought the Lord was coming back, and they quit their jobs and became quite lazy and waiting. And so Paul was stating, there's work to be done. And so when you kind of break this down a little bit, what do you think, Avery, it means to live a quiet life? Or what does it not mean, if that's more helpful?
Well, I think people confuse quiet with idleness.
Mm-hmm.
Or like
Agreed.
Quiet time with God. Oh, I need to go out and like everything has to be just right so I can get in touch with God. Like that's something I've noticed. A lot of my friends also are like, well, I was gonna read my Bible, but then this happened and my favorite sweater wasn't clean and this happened and then this spilled and I just couldn't do it. And I was like, well, if we had to do a schoolwork assignment, you just have to do it. You kind of got to bite the bullet and just do it. Momentum is like the critical thing of you have to be able to keep moving despite adversity, which is kind of where we were hitting when we were trying to film this podcast. It wasn't quite going just right. Sick kids and all the birthday chaos.
Yeah.
But I think something that hit me from like a study that we had done in Ruth is that you weep while moving forward, and not necessarily that we were weeping, but the idea that you're constantly moving forward, because the more you push, the closer that you're still getting to that goal. Because moving forward is better than sitting still. The worst thing to do when you have a problem is to sit still. The house is burning down. Yes, let me sit down on the floor and sit still and do nothing about it. That doesn't make sense. You gotta keep moving and doing stuff.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. I definitely think the quiet life does not mean idleness. And we can see an example of that just in Proverbs 31. And I know a lot of people shy away from this chapter. They feel very overwhelmed. They feel very attacked just because there's so much goodness in this depiction. And I think, as I said in our intro podcast, I love being the underdog in a situation because it teaches me that in Christ Jesus, I can be stronger. I can do more. I can do hard things. And I'm not just stuck in my capabilities now, but there is growth to be had. And that is so exciting to me. So when I read the Proverbs 31, not to mention it has really special meaning to me because it's how my husband proposed to me. But that's another podcast episode. But here's just some things that the Bible says. She's trusted. She's needed. She does good. She looks. She works with her hands. She brings. She gets up. She prepares. She feeds. She inspects. She earns. She plants. She works with energy. She is strong. She knows. She stays up late. She makes, she weaves, she welcomes, she helps. She does not worry. She sells. She's respected. She looks forward to the future with joy. She speaks, she teaches, she never wastes, and she respects the Lord. And when we look at that list, there is no room for idleness there. And my dad, when I was kind of talking to him about this chapter and how I love it so much, and I don't know why others don't love it so much, he said that one person had kind of explained that this is a depiction of a woman over time through different stages of her life. And I think that's really beautiful too. But even if it isn't, I am so inspired by all that she was able to do in Jesus' strength. So living a quiet life does not mean idleness. It means there is work to do. We're living on mission. And get busy. Secondly, mind your own business. This one just means focus on your responsibilities. So can you think of, so what are some of your responsibilities that you think this would pertain to you, minding your business?
Like schoolwork, obviously, wrestling, something like I am an adult, but even before I was an adult, that I knew I needed to be able to manage my own schedule and know when my assignments were due, know what time I needed to get to practice. If I needed like a ride somewhere, being able to line that up with, okay, I have X, Y, and Z. I need to be at the high school. I can't drive quite yet, so I need to be able to communicate with the right people. And that's a lot of like taking ownership and responsibility.
Yeah.
But then my brother, who is 2 years older than me, I shouldn't be, Aiden, do you have your assignments done?
Yeah.
Are you doing that? Like, it isn't my business. It's really, really plain and simple. Just keep your nose to the ground and focus on the work that God's laid before you.
Yeah, I love that. That's really true. It is easy to, when we think we have our responsibilities, in order to look around. So that's really a good point. Okay, work with your hands. This is being diligent, self-supporting, providing for yourself. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, I think, like, it's easy to get into a place of complacency of, oh, God will provide it. I don't need to worry. But God provided you hands and energy and the breath
Gift mix, maybe?
that you are breathing.
Yeah.
So God provided it by you existing. And so being able to just, again, just do it.
Yeah, use your gifts and talents. That's really true.
I think, like, a lot of people can get hung up on, like, nerves or, like, worrying about it. Like, that was one of the things, like, with this podcast, we were like, well, okay, we just have to bite the bullet
Yes.
and do it. Because
Yes.
this is scary.
Yes, very scary. I was terrified. I still am. But the fourth one then is purpose, to live honorably and not be a burden to others, and earning respect. Do you have any thoughts on that at all?
But I think I'll let you take that side of it.
Okay. Yeah, just living honorably, not being a burden. That's a big one to me. That's a lie that I have believed from the time I was a little girl. Satan has planted that I am a burden to others. I'm always apologizing. As people say, I apologize too much. I am never wanting to be a burden. Always trying to just pull up the bootstraps, do things on my own, not good at asking for help. Unless it's my kids or my family, I know I can trust them. But it is really, really hard. And I don't want to be a burden. So this stuck out to me. Like, yes, let's not be a burden to others. But I think earning respect of others too, just living in an honorable way and doing the right thing. That's a gift to those around us. Okay, so this may shock you, but I have done a little research for this podcast.
My mother did research about something shocking.
I wanted to know what the world is telling us that the 2026, top ways to have a peaceful home. So I wrote them down, of course. There's 4 of them that I'm going to share with you. There's, much more in the article, but we're going to do 4. And I'm going to tell you, and we'll kind of wrestle through this, and you tell me too, if we agree or disagree, and then why. Okay? So the first one, lower your expectations. I disagree.
I also disagree, but to a point.
Okay? I will go ahead and share why I disagree. I believe that in order for me personally, remember, there's no formula, only principles. For me personally, to have a peaceful home, I needed to raise my expectations. When I was feeling sorry for myself, feeling overwhelmed about the laundry and the food allergies and the sick child and the blah, 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 I had no expectations that anybody would know what to do, that anybody could help me. Poor me. And then I realized nobody was coming to help me. No one's coming to save me. No one's coming to do the work. This is the work God has called me to, and I need to figure it out. And so I started raising my expectations. I expected that my 18-month-old daughter could learn how to sort laundry by making it fun and teaching her colors. That would be you. You loved it. There was no child labor going on. It was pure fun, pure homeschool, and we were getting tasks done. And once I started expecting things out of you guys rose to the challenge. You had joy. You loved being mommy's helper. You loved being a part of things. And your scope for what you could handle grew. And I think it just gave you this invigorating, like, you wanted to devour what the world had for you. And so I say to raise your expectations.
And I would agree with that, with the one caveat or the preface that when you have those high expectations, you need to be okay with a little bit of disappointment.
Absolutely.
Because, like, there was a time, I think it was going into, it was one of the challenges or something, and we were like, we need to go into this year with no expectations, because there was a point where I was trying to expect all these things of people, and it being able to go into it with no expectations took all the pressure off of it.
Yep.
And so expect and know that your children are capable of doing things, but then be okay if they are not instantaneously good at it.
Yep.
They are not instantaneously excited to do laundry.
Yes.
Or if their excitement to do laundry has faded and now they dread the weekly task.
Yes. Yes, so true. But I would say in that situation, I know exactly what you're talking about. When you were going off into challenge and I had recommended you just go in with no expectations. Go in and have a good time. Go in and have fun. I think that was me expecting that you could let go of something. And so I can see both sides, but I think I still had expectations of you that you maybe didn't know you had permission to do or didn't know that you had. And
because
so
I knew I was still expected to get good grades and succeed and do well and do my best. But it was like things outside of your control.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, and I think that's a really good point.
Control what yourself and everything else will fall into place.
Yep, kind of that whole mind your business thing. Worry about yourself and
Hey, look, we're falling back to our concepts.
Yay. Okay, the second one they say, don't lose yourself. I disagree. How about you?
I would agree again to a point.
To a point, okay. So my stance was, I believe you should completely lose yourself in the work that God has called you to do. I think you should find yourself in your calling. And the example that I'm going to give is kind of interesting, but it's just one that's like really sticking out to me. I was listening to a podcast years ago, like around COVID, and one of the gals on the podcast had a lady at her church, and the lady's daughter was dying of brain cancer. And the lady was explaining, she had come as a guest on the podcast to talk about grief and things. And she talked about this very thing, about God's calling in your life. And she said, it's manning your post. And she said, God calls us to these posts. And sometimes we don't know why or for how long. But we are here to man the post because we know God is sovereign. And for her, she never signed up for, taking care of a child who was terminally ill, preparing her heart to say goodbye to her daughter. She talked about 23 surgeries the little girl had to have in a short amount of time. And she never signed up for that, but she lost herself in her work. If she would have, had this protective shell that I can't lose myself, I don't think she would have been able to do the work that she did and comfort her daughter to her death. And so that is such a beautiful depiction to me. And so I just always thought, I want to be like her. I want to lose myself in that which God has called me to do, so then I can find out who I'm really supposed to be. So how about you?
I'm actually going to flip over to my psychology textbook for this. So we were talking about work and honest work, and so then we were talking about the zone, and you can't see it, but I'm putting in air quotes.
Quotation.
And so the zone is when something is equal parts challenging, but you have the equal level of skill to meet it. And so, like on a graph, they converge right in the middle. And so it has to be challenging enough that you stay interested in it and you want to be able to improve and like excel, but it can't be so challenging that it's so hard that you get frustrated and you give up.
Give up altogether.
And so when you're in that zone, you're in that sweet spot of being able to like complete your work but still be interested enough in it. And I think being in the zone with whatever you're doing, whether it be raising children and being like a homemaker, or in your job or in your schooling or anything you do, you're studying the Bible, is great. And doing that is amazing. But I would also say that it's a delicate balance of making sure that when you are in the zone, you don't neglect things that aren't specifically pertaining to whatever you're in the zone about. Don't pigeonhole yourself, I guess would be what I was saying.
Yeah.
So, like, don't pigeonhole yourself into, I can only ever raise kids and any other interest outside of it is null and void. That's obviously not the point of this podcast.
Right,
because we're talking about raising kids, and then we're going to talk about baking on another one.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about something else fun that we're doing, like music or reading.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. That's really, really good point. That psychology class is coming in handy.
See, this is what we're paying for.
That's right. Okay, the third one, practice tolerance. Again, I disagree. How about you?
Yeah, no. To make the quote, a tolerant society can never survive because it will be too tolerant to tolerate intolerance.
There you go. Yeah.
Which basically means you can't tolerate everything because at some point you will tolerate somebody being intolerant to somebody else.
Very true. The reason why I disagree is because I think we need to stop tolerating things that drain us in our home. I have seen so many instances where a mama is so drained because of the behavior of her child. Now, no fault to the child is being childlike. But if we don't front load the work, if we don't work hard on the front end, the child will practice habits that are intolerable. And we will then find ourselves in a season that we want to push away our child. And we want someone else to watch our child and to teach our child and to put our child to bed because they are so intolerable. And so I wholeheartedly believe we need to stop tolerating those things that drain us. Sally Clarkson had said once, I think it was her, that if you want to raise your children to be people that are enjoyable, or people that if you want to be your friends with your children when they're older, you need to raise them to be people that are enjoyable to be around. And so I took that to heart. I think it was her. But when you guys were very young, if you were screaming in the house, that was intolerable to me. No one enjoyed it. There was no benefit to it. It didn't grow us spiritually. It caused irritation, and I felt like it was bad-mannered. And so I taught you guys at a young age, we're not going to scream. You go outside. I was raised, my dad would always yell out, the neighbors don't want to hear you. And so I taught you guys to be good neighbors. We're not going to scream outside. And so I think there are certain things that drain us as moms, or in the workplace, drain you. Or in the college space, maybe with your dorm room, that drain you. And I think if we don't address those things and we continue to tolerate all the things, we live in a capacity where we're constantly drained, we can't function, and we don't even enjoy the people that we're supposed to be around. And so that is my very bold stance. What is yours?
I'm going to commit a mild slippery slope fallacy, so challenging students, don't come at me. I think also, like, some of these major problems that we see, like, in today, such as, like, a lot of the anger that we've seen and so much, and all the animosity and the unkind words, those things start young. Those things start at 2 years old when you think it's cute, and it's something, it's so funny, she yelled, oh, I hate you. But he really doesn't know what that means. But just because he doesn't know what that means doesn't mean he shouldn't be taught. I think it's really important that you start education on what is right and wrong young. Because although we were made perfect, we are still born into an imperfect world. And something that struck me a while ago, you don't have to teach a kid to be naughty.
Nope.
You need to teach them to be nice.
Yep.
And so you need to start those, like, nipping those little bad habits in the bud now.
Agreed. And this is why we are countercultural.
Yes.
Yes, I totally agree. And then just to kind of spend a little bit more time here, because I think it's very valuable. There's a lot of times I see, the screaming child slapping the mom in the face. Okay, so we were at a church function some time ago, and there was a presentation on the stage, and not just children in the congregation were visiting, but the parents were visiting with one another. And that was my first experience of a generation of the adult leaders or the supposed teachers that were modeling the disrespect. And I thought, okay, that's why it's harder for the children, because this is all they know. And so, again, exhaustion, drain. not being able to enjoy the very people that you're trying to raise. I think that's when the culture starts teaching us that children are expensive, they're annoying, and you just got to hurry up and usher them on out. And we just do things completely differently. And it's not to say that we're right and other people are wrong. It's just the calling that God's put on our heart. So.
Well, and that also goes back to, like, the whole what you're modeling for your children they'll do is, I'm a World War II buff. Very big one.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite authors and persons from that time, he talked about always leadership and how you're supposed to lead from the front. Mm-hmm. Don't ask your men to do anything that you can't do yourself or you won't go out and do with them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something where kids will balk at that if they know that the adults can't or won't do it. Mm-hmm. And so kids will question everything that's like in their nature because they want to know why. And so then if they see a parent not doing it, they're like, well, why do I have to? And you're not. And that's going to have them lose respect. And although you should always respect your parents, I think we should always strive to be somebody respectable.
Yes, I agree. For sure. Yep. And I think too, the one that I'm convicted about a lot is, I might get on my phone, I'm looking at schedules or checking the grocery list or whatever, and a kiddo wakes up in the morning and they come in and I'm like right in the middle of updating something, but what they see is just me on the phone all the time. And I don't want there to be a day that when they get their phones that they're just walking around glued to the phone when someone's trying to talk to them and no eye contact. And I think when you and Aiden first got your phones, we always taught you, if you're on your phone and someone approaches you, look up, put your phone down and look up. And that was one of our sayings. I'm trying to think if there was other things. What? Much to your detriment? Yes. Oh, yes. Because then when she got older, then somebody's like, are you hiding something on your phone? You're dropping it quickly and looking up. She's like, that's what you trained me to do. That's so true. Yeah. So anyway, not to get on a high horse or to say that I have all the answers, but that's just one that I'm really passionate about. So stop tolerating things that drain you. And the child that you want to push away is the one you need to hold closest. So there's that. Okay, the last one. This is what they say. Find the peace from within. And shocker, I disagree. How about you?
Okay, one thing. I have multiple younger siblings, and also the main TV that they watch stuff on is on my wall. So anytime we say peace, all I can think of is the Kung Fu Panda. Inner peace, dinner with peas, and it's supposed to be soy glaze. So I'm sorry, but I had to get that out there. I don't think inner peace, like, you can't inner peacify yourself. That just doesn't work that way.
You can't find something inside of you that doesn't exist.
I would say anytime I try to force myself to be peaceful, I just get stuck in my own head, and then I give myself an anxiety attack.
Yes. This one makes me think of, what is it, parental guidance? Isn't it, they say, I just want some peace and quiet. You be peace, I'll be quiet. Isn't that the movie?
Bob?
Oh, what about Bob? That's what it is. I couldn't remember, but I love it. You be peace, I'll be quiet. We say that all the time in our house. Okay, so what are your thoughts on this one?
I think you find peace when you find God, and that is a really, like, open-ended statement. But I think you find peace when you're in communication with God. And again, I often find people think, oh, in order to find peace, I need to be still and slow, and there needs to be no light and no distractions and no noise. But something that I found, like, recently, I have a really long commute. So my first semester, I was commuting 45 minutes one way to my college classes. I have a 20-minute commute to my, like, high school wrestling practices. I'm in the car a lot. And instead of being frustrated and, like, just being stagnant and not using that time well, I started praying. I would pray, like, the entire, like, 30 to 45 minute car ride. I was praying for my friends and their struggles and stuff that I wanted guidance on, and, like, thanking God. And I think, like, we underestimate while we're doing mindless housework tasks, like unloading the dishwasher or vacuuming or wiping down something. Those things don't require a great amount of mental energy, and so then you can find peace by just, like, pouring whatever is in your head out to God. Maybe it's, God, I really need a meal plan. I need to figure out what I'm feeding these kids. Can you help me figure out what to do with beef and egg noodles and help me come up with an idea? And then maybe a kid will go, we should make beef noodle soup.
There you go.
God answers prayers in weird ways.
So basically you're saying you can spend time with him anytime. It doesn't have to look a certain way. And yeah, it doesn't
I'm
have to be
tired and rambling. Can you tell?
No, you're doing great. I love what you're saying. I'm just like making sure to clarify. So that's a really good point, that we can just call out to him at any time, and everything that we're doing can be spending time with him. I like that. I thought too, you find your peace in who God is, and the only way we can get to know who God is by spending time with him, spending time in his word. I think a lot of times too, when I'm kind of in a really bad circumstance, thinking back at his faithfulness through the years, the different things that he's been faithful through, and whether you're having a hardship with a kiddo, or a marital struggle, or a financial struggle, perhaps it's a job struggle, whatever it is, being able to say God is good and Jesus is king. And I think, again, back to that gal who is losing her daughter, and who did lose her daughter to brain cancer eventually. She was able to say God is good and Jesus is king. And she said, I don't know why I had to go through the things I had to go through. She said, but much like my daughter, I asked her to do the most horrible things. I said, I'm going to take this bandage off your needle. I'm going to ask you to do another surgery, all of these things. Did she get mad at me? Yeah, she got mad at me. But she trusted that I wouldn't do anything that wasn't for her good. And she said, I have that kind of thought with God right now. Yeah, I'm mad. I'm mad that he's going to take my daughter. But I know he's good, and I trust him. And I thought that was so powerful, because I think when we're looking for peace, it's really hard because we get caught up with our circumstances. And Elizabeth Elliot had said this quote, heaven is not here, it's there. If we were given all we wanted here, our hearts would settle for this world rather than the next. And I love that, because, her husband was murdered, right? He was trying to share the gospel with an unreached people group, and they were afraid of him. And I think, what is the movie? End of Spear, or something like that? The End of Spear, End of the Spear.
The End of the Spear, yeah.
The End of the Spear, something like that. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend. But she was his wife, and so he was taken from her, and she chose to forgive and to go back and to find peace with who God is, and to forgive these people and share the gospel with them, and thousands came to faith. So finding peace with who God is, and just that he's sovereign over all things. So anything else you want to add? Anything you can think?
Like, on that note of like being able to be okay in your circumstances and stuff, it was something that we had talked a lot about at camp. I was a camp counselor at Hidden Acres. I was there for 2 months of my life. And we had talked about hardships and struggles, and, okay, what do you do when you're at the end of your rope and you think you have nothing left to give? And one phrase that got thrown around is, at the end of you is where God starts. And so when you think you're at, like, this has been the most unpeaceful day ever, and you're at the end of you, well, then that is when God starts, and he throws in this most amazing spiritual moment. There were times with campers where I was at the end of myself, and then a camper came to faith, and we're like, okay, that's how it does.
That's how God works.
One of my friend's stories, there was a bird in her cabin. She was freaking out. She was at the end of herself. And that was some of the most peaceful, like, bonding time that the girls had, because they were all freaking out over the bird. It was like trauma bonding. And then another thing that we had thrown around a lot that I had really taken to heart is a quote by Henry Martin. He's a missionary. And it goes, I am immortal until God's work with me is done. And the recognition of God decides when we start and when we stop. Like, every breath is a blessing from God, that he has chosen to let us breathe another moment. And to know, though, that is because we were made to serve his, like, purpose. And so we have our life to live, but we are meant to be doing it, serving God, to be at our post, working. And so we don't want the work to stop, because if our work stops, that means that like our time is near.
Yeah.
And so to find joy in it, find joy in that calling that God has given you. And it's not necessarily going to be easy. Sometimes you're going to have to weep moving forward, but to always be moving towards that, like, inevitable goal of heaven.
Yeah, like that weep moving forward. And just that hope is never wasted. So it's much better to live in a place of hopefulness. You know, something will give, something will work out, because then you're not in this anticipatory overwhelm, sadness, grief, etc. And so I think to live in that hopefulness, and like you said, just being at the end of ourselves is when God takes over. I think that's sometimes what he's waiting for, is when we finally just submit, like, I can't do this. This is too much for me. I know it's just really hard for me to even talk about this on this podcast because, you know, in the last 3 to 4 years, I have experienced things I've never experienced before. Rage, extreme illness. I've been hospitalized due to stress. Things that I'm just so ashamed. But knowing that there's hope, and we've come through that as a family. God has grown me when I was at the end of myself. He taught me that he had a plan. He chose our family for a reason. He was going to create a good work in us, that he was not finished creating a good work in us. And that when I just let him take over, everybody grew, I think. And we did grow through the hardship, but it's just like you see things in yourself that you've never seen before during these hardships. And it's like, yes, purify my heart, O Lord, purify my heart and just make me new, grow me to be more like you. And I think that is what brings the peace. So it sounds chaotic. It sounds shameful. It sounds like you're disappointed in yourself, and you are, but it's just that sanctification process of the Lord, just reminding you who he is and being the good God that he is. So we are so grateful that you spent more time with us today. We'll be back again next week. Just a reminder, God is sovereign, he is good, and Jesus is King.